Welcome to Alzheimer's Sunrise, lighting the way for patients and caregivers on Legends 100.3, brought to you by Alzheimer's Community Care, providing help and hope for thousands of families for the past 20 years. Here's Mary Barnes, CEO of Alzheimer's Community Care.
Welcome to Alzheimer's Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio 100.3 FM. We're here today and sharing this morning with Karen Gilbert.
Good morning.
Our Vice President of Education. We have a very great guest today. All our guests are great, but you're really add a lot to our mission because we found out a long, long time ago that safety and dealing with the welfare of our patients is an ongoing challenge. And working with law enforcement is very, very important to us. So thank you very much, Dr. Patrick Kenny. And you've been in law enforcement for 38 years?
Yes.
You don't look it. You look like you just got out of high school here. You're you've been with the Palm Beach you are with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and you're a licensed clinical social worker. What an unusual role to play in law enforcement. I don't think they often have that connection known, but I think the sheriff's done a very wise thing in having this skill set within the rank and file of law enforcement. And you're also an adjunct professor for several universities, our local universities. FAU is one of them?
Yes, Barry University.
Barry University? Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your time this morning with us.
Well, thank you. Good morning.
And behavioral services, what does that mean in your role with the Sheriff's Office?
Well, I'd have to give you a little bit of the history on it. So Sheriff Bradshaw created our behavioral services unit several years ago, and what he wanted was a group of law enforcement investigators and licensed clinical therapists working together hand in hand to deal with some of the issues that law enforcement tends to run across involving people with mental illness. The whole goal was to reduce the amount of negative contact that law enforcement often comes across people who suffer mental illness. A lot of violence that may occur because they're maybe non-med compliant or because their mental illness is at its peak, and we need to do some type of intervention other than just arresting people and putting them in jail for being mentally ill.
You know, one of the things that is a little bit of a disappointment in my career down here was when we developed the Elder Justice Center. And it was maybe before your time. And it worked very well for a while because one of the things we were always concerned about is our patients, our caregivers rather, both patient or caregiver was ending up in the jail.
Right.
And so when you have a lawyer and representing the Elder Justice Center, having that lawyer available to go in and be with who's ever been arrested,
right,
and being able to stand by that person before actually getting the whole legal system in motion. Because once the legal system gets in motion, no matter what you got and what you're afflicted with, it's pretty hard to control the outcome. Am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely right. That is one of the problems with our system today.
Huge. And trying to deal with all the complications when you're talking about behavioral health and when you're talking about, does a person have to live until they're 85 years old to get arrested? Either because of the fact that they did some behavior. I know of a situation where a patient showed up living on his own, had an appointment with the doctor, thought for sure this was the day that they were going to he was supposed to be there, but the receptionist said, and probably didn't handle the voice all that well, told him he was on the wrong day, insisted that he was wrong, and you say it loud enough and the next thing you know, he's got scissors in his hands and he puts it on the arm. Was that something he was supposed to do or should have done? Naturally, not to do that. But he got himself in trouble.
Right.
And because he couldn't control, because he was having an interaction with the disease process.
Right. And there's a lot of failures that happened to that individual long before he got to that point.
Yes. And so he ends up in some sort of family comes down. And when we don't get a chance to do the intervention early enough, this is what happens.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do at the Sheriff's Office with our behavioral services unit, is to get out there and get in front of a crisis before it becomes a criminal matter. Occasionally we have to arrest people because the crime that they committed, say a domestic violence, the law doesn't give us much leeway. But we also try to move things into like a mental health court or work with the prosecutors and the public defenders or the defense to reduce the charges or to dismiss the charges, especially if they have a pre-existing mental illness or dementia, Alzheimer's, or their age. You know, we don't want to put our elderly in jail. That's not where they belong.
And then I've also seen where the caregiver ends up being in jail for being misunderstood about what they were trying to do.
Right.
You know, that's another heartbreaker.
We'll be back in just a moment, and we want to further develop this discussion of mental illness versus a neurocognitive disease. This is Alzheimer Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio. You can call Alzheimer's Community Care at 561-683-2700. You can also send us an email with questions or comments, and the address is info@alzcare.org. That's ALZCARE.org. If you do call or email, please tell us that you heard us on Legends Radio. Also, please visit our website, also alzcare.org, again ALZCARE, where you can also listen to any of the past programs we have presented. So I'd like to mention, Dr. Kenny, I'm very proud that Alzheimer's Community Care is routinely scheduled to present during Crisis Intervention Training Week. And I'd love for you to describe all that goes on in this full week of programs for the staff of the Sheriff's Office. And one of the things that certainly has become more important in the last few years is this distinction between mental illness and a disease like Alzheimer's. And we emphasize Alzheimer's so much because it is said to be the disease responsible for 70% or so of those adults that experience cognitive decline. So can you talk a little bit about all that's presented during crisis intervention training and how the Sheriff's Office is addressing this distinction between these different issues, mental illness and disease?
Well, thank you for asking that. We're very proud of our crisis intervention training and our crisis intervention trained police officers. Back around 2002, a group of therapists and police officers formed a group to identify some of the needs that we have in the communities, and one of the problems that we have in law enforcement of not being able to identify mental illness or dementia or some of the other psychiatric conditions that people may present in the public. It's like the old adage, if you only give a guy a hammer, every problem's a nail. So what we want to do is try to give him additional tools to be able to expand on his repertoire of skills. So what we started in 2003 was to start training police officers, and we did this throughout all of Palm Beach County, just not with the Sheriff's Office, but with all of Palm Beach County. We developed a program, a 40-hour track for police officers to become certified as CIT deputies or police officers. It's quite comprehensive. It's all volunteer staff that provides the training, and we use subject matter experts such as Karen, where you present a block on Alzheimer's. So there's 12 specific topics that we go over during that 40 hours of training, and it includes childhood diagnosis, psychiatric conditions, Alzheimer's care, developmental disabilities, Marchman Act and Baker Act, suicide prevention, family and consumer perspectives, and the big piece is de-escalating a serious situation. We also make the officers perform. So not only are we training them, we're testing them to make sure that they've received all the information that they needed to be successful at it. So we put on scenarios. One of the other pieces is we take them behind the scenes at several of the mental health receiving facilities. So they get to see what happens when they drop off somebody for a Baker Act, or if we drop somebody off at the VA, what it's like for somebody to go through, and then they talk to some of the consumers, and the consumers explain their experiences with law enforcement and their disease. So we're very proud of that, and to date we've held 75 classes and trained over 2,100 law enforcement officers and dispatchers in Palm Beach County.
Yes, and I've had classes that had the dispatchers several times as well. I think I've seen so many of the sheriff's office locations and the police departments because we move the training around. This is Alzheimer's Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio. You can call us at 561-683-2700 or send us your email with your questions or comments to info@alzcare.org, ALZCARE.org. And if you do, please tell us you heard us on Legends Radio. I often do follow the trainers that address mental illness and substance abuse, and it's difficult, and I'm always impressed. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Everyone is really trying to assimilate all of this information, but we also have to remind ourselves that it's sometimes more art than science. It's not always that easy to parse out exactly what's going on with someone you encounter in the community, or you've gotten that alert to be on the lookout for someone who's missing on foot, because we also know that they could have Alzheimer's disease, but they could also have a mental illness. So it's sometimes more complex. And so I have great respect, and I know Mary does as well, when officers and deputies go out after a 911 call. It's not always easy to know exactly what you'll encounter, but those who call us, and they often do, and our family nurse consultants assist them, they are very much in tune with this notion that if it is a person with Alzheimer's disease or related disorder, and suddenly their behavior has seriously changed, that it's usually a medical or medication-related issue, and that they really need to go to a hospital. If it's after hours, a hospital emergency room. If something happens during working hours, we love to get them to a doctor's office and keep them out of the acute care system. But it is really an intense training for those 40 hours on very difficult topics.
Yes, it is. And it's hard for them to take in so much information, but it's amazing how they absorb it and then they apply it in the field. And we're very proud of the program, and that's why it's been running for the number of years it's been running.
And we've rarely had a training where someone didn't come up to me after to talk about a personal situation with a parent or a grandparent. So they are very sensitive to the needs of these families because they're experiencing it themselves.
Yes.
We'll be back in just a moment.
Alzheimer's Community Care is pleased to announce their 2018 Educational Forum, Thursday, May 17th at the PGA National Resort in Palm Beach Gardens. Family caregivers and health professionals will hear the latest on early intervention, research, and caregiver perspectives in Alzheimer's disease and related disorders. Health professionals will earn 4 hours of continuing education credit. Register by calling them at 561-683-2700 or online at alzcare.org. That's alzcare.org. Once again, please call 561-683-2700 or register online at alzcare.org. This will be an extraordinary educational event. Morse Life Health System's Memory Care Residence is a proud sponsor of the 2018 Alzheimer's Community Care Educational Forum. At Morse Life Healthcare System's Memory Care Residence, you can find specialized 24/7 care for loved ones with memory loss with all of the comforts of home. At Morse Life, we enrich the lives of those with memory loss, providing compassion and peace of mind for all. To learn more or to schedule an online tour, please visit morselife.org or call 561-475-1561. That number again is 561-475-1561. Facing a terminal illness can put you and your family through a range of emotions. You may not know what to do, but you do know that you need help. The hospice services of TrustBridge are here to help. Hospice will provide physical and emotional support, as well as delivering medications and any needed medical equipment. In most cases, your loved one can receive hospice care in the comfort of their home, and their care will be fully covered by Medicare or most private insurance policies. Ask your doctor to tell you more about hospice care from TrustBridge and visit www.trustbridge.com.
Welcome back to Alzheimer's Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio 100.3 FM. You can reach us at Alzheimer's Community Care at 561-683-2700. 2700, or send us an email to info@alzcare.org, alzcare.org. And by the way, that is our website as well.
Karen, I just want to make sure that with our good doctor here, Dr. Kinney, talking about this whole unique service that really has made a big impact on so many levels for our residents. There are situations that do need this intervention. And it isn't like you're standing out handing out business cards here. This is something that is done in a very thoughtful way, that is done through 911 when that whole team needs to be ignited and put in the community. So it's really done under conditions, and there are pretty emotional conditions because there's so many other with behavioral health on how the different levels of stabilizing the situation. Am I right or wrong? This is done on an internal situation and done very strategic.
Yes, unfortunately we would never have enough people to be able to respond to every type of mental health type of call or Alzheimer's request. So it would be difficult. So we had to establish a protocol on what we would go on. And what we look at primarily are the internal referrals that we receive from the deputies on the street or from a caregiver that is very concerned about the dangerousness that somebody might be presenting, and they call 911 and they tell the sheriff's office that, and then the information is relayed to us. But as far as a direct contact to us from the public, unfortunately we don't have the resources to be able to accept that. So we have to stick with a very high-risk, critical crisis to respond to the needs.
But it is a wonderful comfort to know that there is this very educated and highly trained team that goes out when there is any kind of putting people in peril.
Exactly, and all with the intent of reducing the risk, reducing the harm to the individual, and appropriately referring the person either to a hospital, back to their primary care, med management. Your organization we use a lot, and we drop your name. We drop your name and phone number all the time to people. So thank you for what you guys do too, because you're one of the resources that without you we wouldn't have any place else to turn.
Well, we've had some I want to jump in on some very sad cases. Yeah. And the cases that we deal with at times do come to fruition with your intervention, not because of the fact that we didn't try to get involved in the situation, but we have such denial. And I can think of a very, very tough situation, I'm sure, and I would love to hear from you about a situation where this gentleman, he was former vice president of a big insurance company up in Connecticut, and his wife she had an alcoholic problem. And he had 5 children. They were trying to intercede and trying to get some interaction and try to separate her from him because, as you know, drinking just increases depression.
Yes.
And that's what was happening. And she wanted to kill herself and him. And if it wasn't for the synchronizing in the intervention, the way we had to do it, he would not be with the burden that would have been on that family. But because of the teamwork and the way the intervention, we were able to save that. She did end up killing herself, but she did not do it with him.
It's a very sad situation. And that's where the problem that we have today is, what is that stopgap? Where do people turn during that crisis? They don't have time to open up the computer and search the internet to see what service. They're in an emergency. And yes. Who else do they call? They call 911.
Absolutely. And that's where you all come in.
Yes, exactly. And that's the perfect example of a type of situation we would run out to prevent the suicide from happening or somebody else being endangered. Unfortunately, we can't predict what the outcome is, but we can make that moment safe and then make the appropriate referrals, and hopefully the people receive the services that will prevent.
Yes. But also having those instincts in that because of the training.
Yes.
Being able to know what you were listening to and what you were seeing was able to intervene.
Right, and that's what we want to teach the deputies, is to use different tools in the toolbox to be able to look beyond just putting handcuffs on somebody, or that they're misbehaving or they're breaking the law. It's opening up the door and asking the right questions to see what is going on with the person in their environment at that given time, and why are they behaving or acting in that certain way. Once you ask those questions, you get a clearer picture, and then you have, through our CIT training, a book of resources where they can start picking up the phone to be able to put the person in contact with the right
Resources.
Exactly, and we can address those collaborations in just a moment. This is Alzheimer's Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio 100.3 FM. You can call us at Alzheimer's Community Care at 561-683-2700, or send us your question or comment to info@alzcare.org, ALZCARE.org. Visit our website, alzcare.org, where you can listen to this and prior programs that we have presented. We are so impressed and so reliant on our community collaborations. None of us can do this alone.
No.
This safety net that we try to place around families involves a whole host of partners, and of course law enforcement is a big part of that. You mentioned prior to going on air that in the last year there have been 217 lost on foot events that you know of, and maybe not every family called you
Yes.
for help, but 217 just in Palm Beach County.
And that's just in the unincorporated areas and in the contract cities. That doesn't include the entire county, so the number is definitely going to be higher in some of our cities like Palm Beach Gardens, West Palm, Jupiter, Boca.
Oh my goodness, and we're very concerned about that. The risk of someone being on foot unsupervised with Alzheimer's or a related disorder is huge. Bodies of water, railroads, and traffic. We've had unfortunate incidents involving all of those dynamics. And so this is a very frequent call if you've had over 200 in one year. And so this is certainly one of those high-risk events that you get, and we are very, very strident in our attempt to protect these patients with our ID locator service, because they can be found quickly, assuming you get called quickly. And that's an incredibly impressive number. We knew it was large, but not quite that large.
Our job also as an organization is to make sure that you have educated partners to work with. And we've worked with DCF, trying to get their team to understand the dynamics of Alzheimer's, because I know of many calls that have been made, and trying to get everybody on the same page about where we're at with that patient, but not all the time it's heated because of the fact we have such skilled patients as well when you're talking about social graces. So it's very hard to know when the intervention has to happen. Am I right or wrong?
100% right.
And so the education is the critical piece of that. So we've worked with DCF. Karen was very instrumental in developing a booklet that they have on Alzheimer's, which we feel very honored to have been a part of. And this whole training, and Karen being a part of all that, is very, very important for us.
Right.
Thank you so much for having people like yourself.
Well, thank you. And as you were saying, it is that collaboration. You have to involve law enforcement, your organization, Alzheimer's Community Care. DCF needs to be a full-time partner in it. The families need to be a full-time partner. The community needs to be a full-time partner. So, like I said, it has to be a collaboration and not rely strictly on one organization or one entity to be responsible. Yeah, it's too broad. It's too broad.
Right.
And it was critically important to convey how passionate the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is about understanding the needs of these families and trying to address them in the most positive manner. And again, we know it's difficult to distinguish mental illness from the effects of substance abuse, from the effects of Alzheimer's disease or related disorder. Not always easy, often more art than science. But if we all work together, we can generally get to the right plan. And we're always pleased to get those calls from law enforcement, sometimes during the day, often after hours.
Yes.
And we always have a family nurse consultant at the other end of that phone who will help an officer or deputy work through the best course of action. And in fact, today I had the opportunity to speak with a caregiver who's struggling with her mom, who actually did elope from the home. And she misunderstood and thought the Baker Act process, which really is a process for those with mental illness, would be what she needed to do. So we, of course, understand that it is not. Someone with Alzheimer's should not be in the psychiatric realm. And also, of course, shouldn't be in the criminal realm. So, and we know that law enforcement knows that as well. So working together, we have a much better chance of having the right result and the right path for that patient and their caregiver.
Is there any special thoughts you'd like to leave with us today?
Well, I'd like to say that, our agency is in front of this. We're trying to be the leader in recognizing the needs that we have. We have such a diverse community. We're very fortunate with Sheriff Bradshaw.
Yes.
And he's wasted no time or money putting together what he feels is necessary to, protect the people he serves. We're also very fortunate that our chief deputy, Michael Gogger, is also a clinical social worker.
Yes.
So with his background in social work, it was an easy sell to be able to find other people in the agency to put together this program. And under all their leadership and guidance, we've been very successful, and I look forward to the other partnerships we're creating.
We applaud that because you got to the heart of the matter.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kenny. This was such an important discussion that we've had. This is Alzheimer Sunrise, shining a light on patients and caregivers on Legends Radio. You can reach us at Alzheimer's Community Care at 561-683-2700. You can send us your questions or comments to info@alzcare.org, ALZCARE.org, and that is also our website where you can get a tremendous amount of information and also listen to this and past presentations. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Alzheimer's Sunrise, lighting the way for patients and caregivers. To learn more about the help and hope available from Alzheimer's Community Care, call 561-683-2700 or visit alzcare.org. That's ALZcare.org. Tune in next Sunday at 6:30 for another edition of Alzheimer's Sunrise, lighting the way for patients and caregivers right here on Legends 100.3.